Hey guys, Saf here with another Raid Shadow Legends video, and in today's video we are going to be talking about my favorite thing which happens every 3 months. It is the Dark Fae rotation, which means we can get access to the best artifact set that you can get out of Doom Tower, which is lethal. I'm going to be giving you a bit of a breakdown so that you can beat Dark Fae and get access to probably the best artifact set even in the game to some extent based on accessibility. Obviously Merciless is coming, Rathalos' set is coming, there's lots of new variable sets, but it's quite hard to get good sets of those in the current situation where it's limited based on how many sort of waves you can clear in Sintranos. So lethal will probably be access to the best damage gear for your account for the majority of people. Now, if you're not farming 120 hard, then that's okay, but you should try and get yourself up to the highest stage possible. But actually beating 120 hard isn't that difficult. It's probably one of the easier bosses. The key thing is allocating the right champions in the right places in the right role. If you do that, then you're going to get great success. Now, why am I saying that lethal gear is really good? Well, you can force the gear in the Forge. By basically having rank and rarity charms, you can basically force really good high quality gear. And now with the addition of mythical charms, which I believe is the best, like literally the best thing that has come out of Sintranos, all of the Merciless gear and all the different fragments and the remnants, mythical charms are what's really good because you can get a significant amount of them. They will give you incredible odds at getting mythical gear, which is, you know, this is probably better than running dungeons. It takes you on average about 62 dungeon runs at sort of stage 10 hard to get one mythical piece, where I'm getting a 5% rate here. And you can also force the 6-star as well, much better here. So I always come into here when I've got lethal gear, I always use these three. I don't make lethal gear outside of having all three of these now. If you don't have access to the mythical charms, it's fine. Just make sure you always use your rank and rarity charms, and then come down into here and then just basically pick what substat you want. You might want to be having a fast lethal build. Doesn't really matter about the slot. You can do it if you want. It doesn't have much impact. But substat charms, it actually doesn't. What it tells you in the bottom here, it tells you what they do here. This is wrong. Don't read anything of this. Go check out my video on how to maximize the usage of the Forge. It gives you the correct assessment. I have asked for this to be updated in game. They clearly haven't done it, but it's not correct. You can get this roll on any substat. We've had it before. So if I don't roll speed boots, then I can have any 4 of my slot if it becomes legendary. It makes these incredibly valuable. So absolutely use substat charms. You craft this in here. We'll see what we get. Sometimes you get something good. Sometimes you don't. There we go. Great. Look, crit rate, crit damage. It's not got speed, but this is really good if it rolls well. Now, trying to get something like that in Savage gear or in Merciless gear is very expensive. Where in Doom Tower, it costs you no energy other than the ability for you to climb the tower. So that is why it is so important every 3 months. I wish it did it more often. When Dark Fae comes around, you get yourself right up to the top as quickly as you can and farm as many days as you can of the highest stage of Dark Fae. So if you can't get all the way up to 120, fine, make sure you get to 80. If you can do it. If you can't get there, get to 40. But down here, you don't get half as many rewards. You can see we don't really get that many rewards here. It's only when you get up to here that it really, really pays off. Now, just a small little note here. If you are close to finishing Jinro, the final Doom Tower legendary, once you complete him, the reward you get from the top secret rooms equal to the fragments from that boss. So for example, at 12 right now, it's a Dark Fae rotation. Once you complete your Jinro, you will get Dark Fae fragments to craft more lethal gear. So if you're very close to it, like say like you're at 80 out of 100, do not do Secret Room 12 first. Leave it till after you've got the final fragments so that you can get more lethal gear. Just a little note, I've got Jinro, so I'll always get lethal gear. And if you have done Jinro, if you have done all your fragments, always do S12. It's worth it. I mean, the silver keys are worth it anyway. You should be prioritizing secret rooms on this rotation, but definitely try and beat this stage because the fragments are well worth it. So with that being said, how am I beating it? Now, I have a pretty good team. I think this team is replaceable. What I'm going to do is explain how the team works and then give you alternatives to all of the slots. And a lot of those alternatives are either farmable rares, free champions, or champions that you can acquire from reasonable sources, right? This is not a pay to win team. This is a team that you can build. And that's what I want to try and get across this video. Anyone can build this so long as they've got at least some of the champions in the right places. So this is my team. I use Lysandra, Ruella, Fulgur, Whisper, and Allure. Now, do not worry about the star ratings. You do not need Awakened champions for this. It helps. Of course it helps. Everything with Awakening helps. I did this without having any Awakening before. I'm just now using my powerfuler champions to make it go quicker because time for me is a very important constant. But the key thing you want to look at here is the roles. We have a turn meter booster so that we can make sure that we go before our clones. We have a clone killer. I call it like a clone destroyer. That is Fulgur in this role. A champion that can basically defeat the clones because the boss is going to make mirror copies of your champions. You need someone to basically take them out. Then we have a decreased speed champion. I'm having to use Ruella as well because she has very good turn meter control, as well as a decreased defense and weaken. And then you just want to fill out the last 2 spots with a boss killer, which is what Ruella is here, and a further turn meter control, and just keep the turn meter down. You approach it very much like you do Fire Knight. Keep the turn meter down, make the boss not take a turn. It doesn't matter if it's not 100% because it only costs you time. It doesn't cost you energy. So as long as the runs are reasonably quick, which you'll find Dark Fae is, you don't need to worry about being perfect. You just need to be able to like 75% it. So that's kind of what I would suggest. So I'm going to run this through here so you can see exactly how it works. And then I'm going to show you my stats, but I don't really think you need to get to the extremes of my stats. And then I'm going to show you alternatives for each slot. So the key thing you need to note here when you come into these waves, some of these waves are annoying. So you do need to be worried. You need to be careful about them. Like Daywalkers here can be quite annoying. It can make it really difficult to speed tune. The key thing you want to make sure is on wave 2, you have all of your abilities back. So you'll notice that I have not got Lissandra doing any of her abilities on this wave because I want her A3 and A2 back. Fulgur, my clone killer, is not using any of her abilities. I want her A2 and A3 back. Same as Ruella, same as Whisper. Basically, we're just A1ing this wave. And this is where sometimes it can cause you problems because if they do a bit too much damage to you, maybe you come into the wave too dead, essentially. So that might be just a problem. Now I'm going to pause it here. So what you want to do, this is what's going to happen at every Dark Fae. The key thing is you need your booster to be first so that they can create a turn meter difference. Right, we're going to be able to use this ability here. We're going to place increased speed and we're going to drop the enemies and boost ours. So that means that I don't have to speed tune my team. I just need to make sure that my DPS champion is next in line. So we're going to use this ability. And you can see my speed champion here is next in line. Now, the nice thing about Fulgur in this role, the reason why I really like her, she self-buffs because she hasn't got enough buffs, her increased attack, which means that you can build her a lot less stats. She doesn't need to be as like giga strong. You can go a lot weaker and she will do the job for you. She also has an AoE, which gives her turn meter. So she's, attacking 6 enemies. She's going to get 6 times 15% because this 15% is per target. So you get back to this A2 ability, which fully depletes an enemy's turn meter. So it's perfect for this role. We have turn meter control, big AoE, and a good self buff. Makes it easy to build. So she's going to use her A3, one-shot the wave. The key thing as well with this team is you don't want to build your champions tanky. If you build them tanky, then the enemy clones, the clones that the Dark Fae creates, they're also going to be tanky, which means it's going to be harder for you to kill them. So you don't really want to do things like Stone Skin. Don't build Stone Skin. It's a bad idea because they will have Stone Skin. Don't build things like Reaction Gear. They'll have it also. Try not to build high defense or bring defense units or high HP units because they will be harder to kill. Now what we want to do here is once that's done, we're going to open with Ruella's A2. So it's going to provide us decreased defense, weaken, and decreased speed. This sets up our Whisper. It's a very good pairing with Whisper. Allure then is only A1ing. That's her only job. And Whisper then is our boss killer. She is the champion that's going to kill the boss for us in good time. So there's all that turn meter control. And all we're going to do now is just keep the turn meter down on the boss whilst Whisper basically tears it a new one. That is how this team works. Now, the nice thing about Ruella as well is she does have an A1 turn meter steal. So she gains 5%, the enemy loses 5%. It does get halved to 2.5% per hit, but it's still nice. At 7%, it helps. And that is how the team works. Now, in terms of stats and AI for this, as I said, I did on round 2 disable everything. Pretty much everything. They're not allowed to use anything. So that on round 3, we can force this energize ability into the nuke, into this time defensive as well. Ruella also gives you a bit of turn meter boost, I should say, as well. So Lissandra is basically at 315 speed. You do not need this to be that fast. She is just built in an arena build. You could build her probably at around about 260 speed and it will do the job for you. It's not a problem. She's too quick here. She doesn't need to be this fast. It's absolutely fine. Make sure you build enough accuracy to beat the level of this Dark Fae that you're fighting. I think it's about 350 at the highest stage. Ruella here is at 233 speed. We've got Fulgur at 218 speed. She does have the mastery that gives her speed by killing, Whirlwind of Death, right? So she's going to get 18 more speed. That's how she's able to jump the Ruella because she's killing 3 enemies on the wave. Then we have Whisper. She's in a god tier build. Your boss killer could be Newt. It doesn't need to be this build. I've just got a very strong Whisper. It doesn't need to be this strong. You can probably drop this down to like a 6,000 attack, 240% crit damage Whisper. It will do exactly the same thing. Keep in mind with Whisper, she self-buffs crit rate, so you need to open with the A2, otherwise you might not crit. That's why she's opening with the A2 here on the boss. And then we have a Law who is at 199 speed. I could honestly push her a bit higher. She is in a full damage build. You don't need to. The key thing is you just don't want the boss to take a turn. So this could literally be 15% crit rate with 300 speed or whatever you want to make it. It doesn't really matter. Just make sure she doesn't die on the waves and she keeps the turn meter down on the boss. That's her only job. So let me talk about some substitutions we can have for each spot. So obviously the first one, the one that comes to mind here is the legendary, right? I've tried to make this team as epic or free to play as friendly as I can in terms of the champions I've selected. Lissandra's the main one, but there are easily better alternatives here you can take. So for example, if we were not using Lissandra here, the next best option I think is Morrigan. She was a fusion champion if you got her back in the day. She does exactly the same thing as Lissandra, although she has a little bit less turn meter control, but she does bring the decreased speed. So you could obviously replace Ruella with a better turn meter controller to basically make up the difference with losing that A2 from Lissandra. But she will do a 20% fill, 20% drop, and a 20% increased speed. That's exactly what you want to happen. She does have a chance of stealing buffs, but remember, you can only remove Veil, you cannot steal Veil. It's a bit of an odd quirk with that ability. Now, if you don't have Morrigan, you weren't around when the fusion was on, well, you can always dip into a Deacon. Deacon does exactly the same thing, gets an extra turn, doesn't bring increased speed, so you would need to bring someone else with increased speed. I'd suggest maybe Zenogre replaces Whisper, so you have a boss killer and increased speed. It's a very good option, and Zenogre will self-buff attack as well, so you don't have to worry about finding damage for that champion. This also brings a decreased defense, which is nice. That replaces the Ruella a little bit, and a leech if you do take some damage on the waves. But again, similar thing, you've got an aura as well, so it can go in the lead. Similar replacement for Lissandra. If all of these options are eluding you and you just don't have anything else, then go into campaign, get yourself a Diabolist. Diabolist is excellent for the same role. She just doesn't have an aura or an extra turn. She's like a budget Deacon here, but she does bring the increased speed. So if you don't have any of those, go farm yourself a Diabolist. You can get it in campaign, and that will do exactly the same role there. Now, once you've selected that role, let's just say you went with a Deacon, right? What do we do to replace the Fulgur if you don't have Fulgur? You just want someone who has very good turn meter control damage. So if you did the Herndig fusion back in the day, Herndig is a great option. He has this ability to AoE all enemies here, get decreased defense and decreased accuracy. This should kill everyone. Just keep in mind though, he is a dwarf, and dwarfs tend to be a little bit tankier than most enemies. So just don't build him too tanky. He needs to be quite glass cannon. Then you can fully deplete the target's turn meter here as well. So you have the same effect as Fulgur, a great option for that role. You could always use a Yakal available in the clan shop for clan gold. So it's free to play as I can possibly get it for you. He will have the ability to fully deplete and steal the target's turn meter here. So it won't be 100%, it'll only be 50% because the boss obviously has that passive that makes all turn meter effects halved. But he also places increased speed on himself, decreased speed on the boss, and then you have this AoE which will basically get rid of the clones for you. So he's also a viable option here. You could use a Vlad if you want to, although he doesn't, he has good turn meter control here as well. It's not as effective as a full depletion, but he does have a double AoE, leech, decreased defense. So Vlad, if you did him, he was also a fusion. Pretty good one. I think Mikage has it as well on the alternate form. Here, also decrease the turn meter of all allies. I would not recommend Mikage. I don't think she's very good here for that role. You could even go to something like a Lady Kimmy. There are epic options as well. You've got someone like a Siege Hulk here who has a chance. I think it's on the A1 to decrease the target's turn meter. It's not very big. It's an option. So pretty much any one of those nukers will work absolutely fine for you. Whether it's, I think most people, if they have it, probably is going to be Yakal if you don't have the options that I've suggested in this team. I still think Fulgur for me is the best in class. Now, for a boss killer point of view, many would suggest Newt. The only thing you've got to be mindful of Newt is he's defense based, so it will make him tankier, but you can use him as both a boss killer and a turn meter control because his A1 is pretty good. But I just think he's a bit too tanky. The one that I would suggest most people go to if you have him is someone like a Royal Guard, because Royal Guard here also has a 4-hit turn meter reduction, decreased speed alongside his boss killing capabilities. Pretty good option. You can also use a Cold Heart as well to do it. Turn meter drop and maximum HP. Maximum HP is a bit low. It's 10%. It's not great, but there's an option for you. You could use Geomancer as well. Fully depletes the turn meter. The only problem with Geomancer is you need to take damage. So probably not the best option. You're really looking for just someone who has lots of very strong single target damage. Even someone as good as like a Phenax will do it, would be absolutely fine, right? It doesn't have to decrease turn meter for the boss killing point of view. You just need someone that's going to do large amounts, like someone like a Turvold would do it. Someone who's just going to deal large amounts of single target damage as your boss killer. And then the Allure slot and the Ruella slot is pretty much decrease speed and turn meter control. Someone like Royal Guard, someone like Sylar can do it really well, right? Sylar's a great option for decreasing turn meter. If you've got him, Killian the Lucky is a monster. He steals so much turn meter. He is such a monster. I absolutely recommend if you've got him, Killian the Lucky could be very good just because of the amount of turn meter. If you put him in a Relentless set as well, he keeps getting self buffs. He's a bit of a monster, honestly. He's kind of crazy. So he's an absolute great option as well. And pretty much you can see any option here. Throw in another Cold Heart if you want to speed it up. Just lots and lots of turn meter control, as much as you can get. So those are kind of the options. I really think this team is possible that anyone can beat it. You just have to make sure you boost into clone kill, get the decreased speed on as soon as possible, then just layer it with lots and lots of turn meter control to try and keep the boss down. You often can take a hit or two. Sometimes it will fail, but as long as you're at around about 75% success rate, you're probably able to farm it. And once you do, you can bring those materials over into your forge, and you'll be able to start crafting yourself the best damage set that you can probably make right now, purely because trying to farm Merciless gear with all the rank 5s, the difficulties with restrictions, it's not the easiest for many people. Some double bosses are just a nightmare for people. You know, I understand that it may be the best set, but accessibility also has to drive whether it's the right set. And I think trying to get mythical Savage gear is really hard from Finite Hard. It's one of the hardest dungeons. This is your access to your best, strongest mythical damage gear. Still is, and it probably will remain the same for at least another 3 to 4 months until people start getting Merciless in lots of different places. So there you go, guys. That is how I beat Dark Fae. That is what I would recommend everyone put their time and attention to this month. Get yourself a good Dark Fae team. Lethal gear is so strong. I can show you some examples of some of the lethal gear I've got right now on my account. Whisper that you just saw, she is in lethal gear. She is in that lethal gear, and she is using some of those pieces. The second Whisper that I have, also in lethal gear, using pieces like this. This is why I'm suggesting it's so strong. Look at this piece. It is utterly god tier. I think I just finished a collab with Drock, and he looked at that boot and he was like, why is that on a Whisper? It's a shameful thing. It should be in the arena. Yes, it should. So absolutely farm lethal. Let me know, guys, in the comments below, are there any other champions that you think are actually super good for the roles that I've described in this video? Have I missed anyone? There are so many champions in Raid Shadow Legends now. It's probably a few champions there that I haven't thought of that actually are really god tier for it. And are you putting your time and attention? Is this something you're going to be focusing on, or have you already been farming it? Let me know in the comments below. I really like hearing from you. And as always, if you are not subscribed to this channel and you like watching these videos, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification, and also come and hang out on our live streams. I always live stream on a Monday and a Thursday. Sometimes I move it depending if there's a CVC or if there's a particular event going on, but it's normally Monday and Thursdays. We stream on this channel on YouTube at 8 p.m. UK time, that's UTC. Come hang out. We have, you know, loads of fun. We do gear cleanses, we do Hydra team building ideas, we do math sometimes. I answer everyone's questions. You know, I'm available for you to like pose different team ideas. If you're stuck on something, you need some advice, come hang out. It's really fun. I really welcome everyone. It's a great experience. I really enjoy doing it. It's probably one of my most fun things about content creation is hanging out on those live streams. And we do tend to go quite long. It's a very long session normally. So I'm normally around for quite a few hours. But there you go, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the content, and I'll catch you in the next video.